Okay, so I'm here with a Supergirl review slash rant. I'm going to be bouncing all over the place. I wrote some notes down. I'm going to try to stay on topic, but I'm going to be fucking everywhere. This thing drove me mad, and it's only because I got to read this absolute masterpiece of a comic book in Woman of Tomorrow, thinking that it would be based off of this book. Boy, did they take fucking creative liberties. And by that, I mean it is very few things in this book that translate directly over to the movie. But I digress. We'll get to that eventually. This was a 4 out of 10. I'm just going to give you the score up front. It was a 4 out of 10. I'll explain why, but I just want you to know if you're looking for some sort of cohesive argument here, it's not going to happen. I'm just venting. This is just for me to just get the hate out because oh my god. Look, I had seen reviews in the past that were shitting on this movie and I thought, this seems a little harsh. It just recently came out on digital. I was like, I'm going to purchase it. I want to see. It can't be as bad as people are saying. It's as bad. It's as bad. It's as bad, and some parts are probably worse than what you've heard. So, I'm just going to go into this from the standpoint of from this point on until the very end where I will compare the book and the movie. I'm just going to talk about the movie itself as a separate entity that doesn't have anything to do with the book, and we'll just be judging it off of that. So, up front, I'm going to give you just a couple quick things I want to talk about that don't really have any spoilers in them, and then we're going to jump into spoilers. So, with that being said, we're just going to jump into the spoiler-free section. Okay, so the spoiler-free section, I know I said I would compare the book and the movie later, but one of the spoiler-free versions is it is nothing like the book, which is crazy because this is the blueprint. This is the fucking masterpiece, and you decided to go off the rails with this? I don't know why. Because when you do that, there's two camps. One, you are extremely lucky and or slash talented enough to make it just as good as the book, and then guess what? You've just created a masterpiece that's somewhat identical to the original. Okay, a more probable scenario, which is what happened, is you don't live up to the fact that you have a masterpiece right here in front of you that you just choose not to draw from. Instead, you take little bits and pieces, which happen to be the wrong bits and pieces in this case, and you don't even get a good adaptation of the book. You just get a movie on its own that's somewhat kind of vaguely resembling the source material, and it drove me crazy. So that is one of the spoiler-free cons that I wanted to talk about. Was it had gold right here. You had a wealth of great storytelling, of good character development. It was fantastic, and you chose to just ignore the vast majority of that and do whatever the fuck this was. So we'll get into that. But I want to talk about the look of the movie, the color palette. For the love of God, please, please quit making these fucking superhero movies ugly. These superhero movies and these TV shows and just the fact that they're afraid to put colorful imagery in there. Just these beautiful aesthetics that you see like in the comic book. They just don't want to translate that to the big screen or to the TV shows, and I don't know why. I even wrote it down. I was like, I want something colorful and bright, something with some vibrancy and some life to it. It's fucking Supergirl. She wears a bright red and blue uniform. It's amazing. It's stunning. It's iconic. I mean, the lack of color in this, it blows my mind. I don't understand the vision behind this. It's a superhero show. It's a superhero movie. Make it fantastical. It's okay. Have a little fucking whimsy. Come on, man. Quit making all these damn superhero shows just so bland and bleak and dystopian. Maybe dystopian's a little too harsh, but it's just lacking in so much color, and I don't know why. I don't know why, but I've noticed it a lot. Not just with like one or the other. Both DC and Marvel seem to suffer from this, and I'm over it. I'm over it. I just put some color back in there. Splash a little bit of color back into these things. Please. Please. I'm begging you. Please. Make them look good again. Uh Another thing, props. This is a 50-50 bag. The costume design and some of the character designs for like especially these aliens, phenomenal. Excellent. They look great. That's what gave it a couple points just right off the rip is some of these designs and the way that these characters moved on screen with their the shapes of their bodies and the detail that they've added to them. It brought these aliens to life, and that was great. But then you have the complete opposite end of the spectrum where my friend pointed this out to me when he went to go see this in the movie theaters, and he was like, hey, look, Lobo is holding a cigar in this, and this cigar just looks so blatantly out of place from the rest of like the stuff going on screen that you just can't help but notice it. He was 100% correct. This thing is it looks like a fucking plastic tube. It looks like you've got Lobo, who is a badass, certified, bona fide. You even hear Supergirl talking about it in the story. He is an immortal monster who killed his entire planet off. He's this powerful mercenary, this beast of a fucking character, and you give him a fucking toy to hold? Hey, look, for real, you're a multi-million-dollar project. What are you doing? This is fucking dumb. What are you doing? I don't understand it. It doesn't make sense. I would ask you to please make it make sense, but I don't think you can. Because it's stupid. So, you've got this, and it's so glaringly obvious. Like, if my friend hadn't have told me, you see it right away and you think, what the fuck is this? It's that jarring. It is that jarring that you're like, you're drawn to that. You're not drawn to the dialogue in the scene. You're not drawn to what's happening or the action or anything else. You're just looking at this like, surely this can't be. Maybe someone let this slip in the props department, or maybe this was supposed to be boosted up with some CG. I don't know, but it wasn't. And this is the final cut, and it's dog shit. So, one more thing, and it has to deal with Supergirl's costume. I don't think this is a spoiler, so I'm just going to say it here in the spoiler-free section. She doesn't don the costume, the traditional blue and red suit, until the very last little bit of the movie. Why? Why? You've already seen her in it. There doesn't need to be this big whole epic moment for a great reveal and everything. Look, I get it. She's troubled. You're showing that she's having a hard time coming to grips with living this new life and suffering the loss and everything. I get that. But you can't have her in the suit for that? I mean, it's iconic. And I don't know. That was a nitpick on my part, but I just thought, what are we doing? This movie, bro. This movie irritated me to no end, and to the point where it's several little annoyances that just added up over time that made me just really frustrated with this movie, like to the point where I didn't think I was going to get this upset with it, because there were parts that were good, and that's another disappointing part, is the parts where it starts to shine, where you start to see a little glimmer of hope, and you're like, oh hey, this is definitely not going to be as bad as what people were saying. Something happens, whether it is immediately or shortly after that part where you're getting that hope, that just wipes it away. And you're like, well, that's a shame. So, I don't know. It was disappointing. And honestly, there's no shade to Millie Alcock in this one. I think that she could be a great Supergirl. But I think what she was given here, there was no chance. I don't put any actress in this role. Whatever this was, no one's making a good showing out of this. You can polish a turd, but it's still a piece of shit. That's what this is. So Yeah, that's it. That's it for spoiler free because I want to get into spoilers, and I'm just on the verge of talking spoilers, and I don't want to ruin it for someone who just doesn't want to be spoiled right away. Look, the rest of this spoiler free, I'm just going to tell you. If you are deciding whether or not you should buy it now or wait for it to stream, please wait for it to stream. Please do yourself a favor. Don't take my word for it. Wait, give it a little bit. Watch it when it streams. If you happen to like it, then by some miracle, then you can buy it. But save your money. I spent $25 to purchase this to see what the hype and what the hate was. Boy, I'm leaning heavy to the hate side. So, and again, it's not a like a one thing that did it for me or one thing that tipped the scales. It was just so many things, so many things. But we're gonna get into that now in the spoiler section. So let's go. All right, in the spoiler section, we're gonna talk fights and action. I am talking about this as if you have seen it, so I'm not going to go over the whole plot about Ruthie's parents being killed and her brother being killed and all that. At this point, I'm just going to assume that if you're in the spoiler section, you know what happened in the movie, you know kind of what's driving it, and we're just going to go from there. So, the fight scenes in this, there were, I don't know, roughly 3, maybe 4 that were memorable. You have the first one where Ruthie goes into the bar. She's looking for help to hunt down Krem. This is kind of similar to the book. I know we'll talk about that later. But anyway, she's trying to find someone who will help her hunt down Krem. In this, she offers her sword as a reward because apparently in the movie, her dad was an amazing blacksmith who crafted like renowned weaponry and swords, and he was very well known. So, this obviously draws the attention of some rougher characters. One alien just walks up, snatches the sword from her, and goes to leave. And then you have Supergirl, who happens to be in the bar. She's celebrating. It's her birthday. She's on a planet with a red sun, so she's soaking it up, having a good time. She's going to now get involved in this because I guess she feels bad for the girl. She goes to get the sword back. There is a brief skirmish. It was good. It was fine. I'm not going to just shit on the whole movie. I thought that action scene was okay. She doesn't have any of her powers. You're not seeing heat vision or flight or anything like that. She's just regular, throwing down ass whoopings the best she can. It was fine. It was just fine. It was not great, but it was not bad. So throw this in the category. It was whatever. Then the next fight is her on a space transport going to a planet to track down Krem, and it's her and Ruthie, and there are these space pirates basically who land on the ship, and they're basically being space jacked. They're getting their stuff stolen. So she's now fighting these people, and one of the things they have, these space pirates, is a tech that lets them jump around and teleport, which looks like short little distances, like these little quick bursts, but they're efficient at using it, but when she's using it, it's very inefficient. She doesn't know where she's going to wind up, so she's, popping up when she uses it in like weird places and odd predicaments. That was fine. That added a little bit of levity to the situation, but yet the action was still pretty good and engaging. The best part of that scene, however, was when she gets blasted out into space and she absorbs the rays from a yellow sun in that solar system, and she gets supercharged and she starts doing actual Supergirl shit, and that's cool. But it's brief, and they only really tease you a little bit because I guess they don't want to, give it all to you at once, which, fine, whatever. But that just made the fight fine. It was okay. Wasn't great, but it was good. Then you have another fight on the planet Bill Kess, which happens to be what I would assume is a nod to one of the creators on this book, The Woman of Tomorrow. I don't recall seeing a nod to Tom King from what I can remember. That's neither here nor there. I just thought that was odd, that, not in a bad way, but just, you got Planet Bill Kess, which happens to be one of the, I believe, the artist on this book. Don't quote me, but yes, they worked on it. She worked on it, and she got a little nod, but no mention of Tom King. Anyway, so they're fighting in this town. The brigands land, and it causes this big commotion, this big fight. Supergirl's there. Also, Lobo is there. He's engaging in battle. Supergirl's engaging in battle. She's using her powers and stuff. It's good. Ruthie was there. She was even fighting. She was trying to, anyways, which we'll get back to that here in a second. We're just going to talk about brief overviews of the fight scene, but there's a direct tie in here with Supergirl and Ruthie in this particular scene, but we'll get to that in a second. It was fine. So 3 out of 4 so far have just been fine fights. The fourth fight was fantastic. It was epic. It was awesome. It was what I wanted from the start of this movie, but instead, we don't get that. And that's what's a shame, because it's really showing Supergirl as a character when it comes to like fighting abilities and power levels, and it's awesome. There's a scene where she's like charging and she's just tackles Krem, and she sends him flying with her, and they're tumbling, and she's like just beating his ass through the air and bouncing him off the ground and shit. It's great. It's great. It's engaging. It's exciting. It's fun. Everything that's happening, you're like, wow, that's really cool. And then she's zipping around, and then it does the whole, superhero trope where it goes slow-mo and you see the explosions and all that. Hey, take it, leave it, whatever. At that point, I just expect them in the movies. It is what it is. Some of them are well done. This one was fine. It wasn't bad. It wasn't great. But either way, this was the highlight fight of the movie. It's a decent length, maybe you get it for a few minutes or so, but it was good, and that was fine. It's kind of like a carryover from what you see in the sky where they're fighting on the brigand spaceship, and that's all rolled into one. But yeah, it was fine. It was fine. It was good. I really enjoyed it as a whole, because that scene, it goes from the air to the ground, and she's doing all this crazy stuff, and I gotta say, it was impressive. I like that. I would have loved to see more of that sprinkled throughout the movie, but you get it at this one climactic point, which, hey, props to it for that. That was great, and I really liked it. That's probably what helped boost it up to a 4, to be totally honest. But out of the whole movie, out of the somewhat close to 2-hour movie, that was it. 3 fine, average, meh fights, and 1 epic fight. 1 big fight at the end. That was the action throughout. The rest is just story and plotline, and man, at times it feels like an absolute slog to get through. It is just rough. And some of these things, these interactions that you're having between Ruthie and Supergirl is whatever, and some of them between Ruthie and even Lobo is whatever. And I mean, flashbacks to Supergirl's origins, they're whatever. It was just you know what? Come to think of it, it just suffered from being a real middle of the road movie. Something that had tons of inspiration that it could have drawn from, an absolute banger of a blueprint, but yet, I don't know. I really don't. I wanted to see if I would love this movie. And even if I didn't love it, I wanted to see if maybe it was getting overhated. Brother, sadly, it is not. I think it's getting pretty much honest reviews for the most part. Now, let me just say this. Let me preface all this by saying, I'm a little late in this, but if you liked it, that's great. There is nothing wrong with liking this movie. But for me, so many things were a huge disappointment, but that doesn't mean it can't be a great movie to you. To me, this was a major letdown. Supreme disappointment, and I was just baffled that you could have such great source material to draw from and still drop the ball. But I digress. We'll get back to that in a little bit. Going back to talk about Supergirl and Ruthie, their dynamic with each other. First of all, you don't feel any emotional attachment to these characters. None. None whatsoever. And then what's even worse than that is you don't feel like there is an emotional attachment to the characters themselves, like for each of them to connect with each other, because another strong point that they lacked was having a bond between Supergirl and Ruthie. And that just kind of like they kind of forced that in there. I mean, it happens organically in the book. I know I keep saying that I'm going to talk about it later. I can't help it. I got to sprinkle it in every now and then. But it happens organically in the book, and in this it just feels like, hey, we're running out of screen time here, you better hurry up and make them have a connection. That's what that felt like. So there isn't even an emotional attachment that they feel towards each other, which is crazy to me. But I don't know, man. I don't know. It's weird. You don't really feel for anybody in this, which is so bizarre to me. Again, gonna go back and compare it to the book, because this gives you all the feels, all of them, brother, everything. It runs the gambit. It gives you all the emotions, and it does a fantastic job at doing that. With this, you're just like, oh yeah, your planet died and your parents are dying and now you're being sent off, and yeah, that's a bummer. It lacks the emotional impact that it is supposed to have. This bond that these two girls are supposed to share with each other, like some sort of like a sisterly bond through grief and trauma, that they could bond, and they have this understanding of each other even though they're two completely different people. You don't get that. You don't get that. And it's just this weird disconnect. It feels like you're missing something vital there and they just don't give it to you. It's I don't know, man. It was crazy. But anyway, there's this part in Bill Kess where they're fighting on the planet, and Ruthie has this chance to attack Krem from behind, basically like a little ambush, little sneak attack. Supergirl stops her. She just charges through, just zips right through, stops her, tackles Ruthie. And this leads to the direct murder of this one girl, Sana, and her parents, who were trying to sabotage Supergirl and Ruthie in order to get their daughter back. All three of them dead as a direct result of Supergirl interfering and stopping Ruthie from attacking Krem, which made no sense. It made no sense. And toward the end of this movie, it makes even less sense. And I'll tell you why when we get there. Because, man, it's just... I don't know, man. I don't know how they storyboarded this or their thinking or their logic. But, yeah, man, I don't know. Bad decisions. Bad decisions all around, honestly. But, yeah, I got to get back on track because this is it's ruining me. It's really killing me. I've got two huge disappointments I want to talk about, and then we'll try to get into the book and the movie and wrap this up. I don't want to rant for too long, but this one really fucking got to me, guys. I'm not gonna lie. This one really just fucking rubbed me wrong. But anyways, so two huge disappointments from this movie. We're gonna start somewhat comparing the book and the movie a little bit more right now, and yeah, the first big disappointment. When they go to talk about Supergirl's origins in this movie, it is a somewhat sad story. And you're thinking, oh, well, shouldn't it be? It's a tragic story. She's, her homeworld's destroyed. Her parents send her off into space, leaving them to die on planet. Yeah, that is sad. That is sad. But when you read the book, it is gut-wrenching. It is soul-crushing. It is beyond sadness. You can't help but to weep for this poor girl and the story that is being told and her origin, and everything about it is so captivating and compelling, and it draws you into this huge emotional connection with the character. With this, nah, it's just kind of sad, man. Yeah, it's kind of sad that all that happened to her. But with this book, in Woman of Tomorrow, it is devastating. Devastating. And I'm probably underselling it. Issue 6 in this book is supposed to be what this origin thing is talking about. And in the movie, they even switch it up a little bit and do some tweaks to her origin story that really ruined it for me. In the book, she was born before the destruction of Krypton. And then she experienced it right from the first wave all the way to when she was sent out into space to be sent towards Earth and to find Kal-El. In this, she is born 8 years after the initial wave has happened on Krypton, and it is just a floating chunk of what Krypton used to be, and I believe they called it Argon. And she is on this planet, she's growing up on this planet, but all she's ever known is this small chunk. She's only known Argon. She didn't know really truly Krypton because she wasn't alive when that first wave happened. But it took a lot of that away. Plus, it kind of ruins the whole timeline of her being older than Superman and this weird thing happening where she got lost in space and it took a while and that's why Superman looks older, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. The whole core point to remember and to focus on is they took only some variations from the book and then they completely just revamped them and reworked them into their own image and their own storytelling in the movie, and it completely lost and destroyed the true emotional impact that it had in the book. And it left you just feeling like, man, this could have been so much more. This one scene could have hit you so fucking hard that even if the rest of the movie sucked, you'd have probably gave this a 7 out of 10 because it's that impactful in the book. There's a scene in there, a stretch of like time where Supergirl talks about looking out her window on Krypton and she sees a tree and it's got red and blue leaves on it. And it reminds her of Krypton and the hope and everything like that. And in this, they have that tree. She never grows up with it. The mother sees it and it's a tree with just red leaves. And I know it's such a small change, but the change itself is big when you think about the symbolic nature of the red and blue leaves are the fucking colors for Supergirl and Superman's costume. What are we doing? You're taking things and you're making little changes that you think don't matter, but are actually super impactful. The little things make a big difference. And you couldn't even stick the landing on that. I don't get it. You obviously didn't spend your fucking CG budget on a cigar, so put it in the fucking leaves. Make them red and blue leaves on the tree. Make her alive when Krypton was whole and fine and perfect and her of having a good childhood. Because it's so much more gut-wrenching and soul-crushing to have her have those moments and then have them ripped from her when the catastrophe happens. But instead, you don't get that. You get a cheap, watered-down version of that. And it's so crazy. In there, they talk about how she is now preparing in the second wave where that shield happens around this planet, Argon, and the chunk of Krypton that's left in the book. And she's like digging these pillars because they're finding out that the soil is irradiating, there's minerals in the soil that's irradiating the soil, and they're killing Kryptonians, and hence is the kryptonite. There's a reaction between the sun and the soil and the minerals, and it's making kryptonite. And you see her out there digging. At this point, she doesn't have powers. She's just a regular girl. She's digging these big pillars for these lead spikes to be put into the ground to help fight off of this radiation poisoning. And she's out there, and as like thousands and thousands of Kryptonians are dying around her, she keeps going. And that is an excellent moment for the character of Supergirl, for Kara, and you don't get that. And that is crazy to me because that small detail is so huge. It's impactful to the character, and it helps you to understand the character better. And you don't add that. Instead, you added Lobo into this fucking movie. Who cares? Lobo was fine. I could have, take it or leave it. I didn't even fucking need him. He played such a small role in this. Even my friend said this, that if you take Lobo out of this movie, nothing changes. And it's 100% right. You could have spent that time developing the bond between Ruthie and Supergirl. You could have spent that time really digging into the origin story of Supergirl and the tragic backstory and who she was as a fucking regular Kryptonian before any of this happened that turned her into Supergirl. Wasted opportunity. Fucking shameful. The second big thing, even bigger than this, and you would think that that was my biggest complaint because of how passionate I was about that, but no. The biggest complaint is, I'm sure, a lot of people's biggest complaint. She kills Krem of the Yellow Hills after talking Ruthie out of this, after telling her not to deal this final blow while Krem is beaten and broken on the ground from Supergirl fighting with him. She says, you know, you don't need to do this. Don't do this. Don't do this. And then as soon as Ruthie leaves, as soon as she sends her off, she kills Krem. If you were gonna kill this motherfucker, why didn't you do it in the beginning? Save us all the headache of this stupid fucking movie. You know, this whole point was to not kill him and was to do the right thing and to do what her parents talked about be good. And in the end, she kills the bad guy. And you think, okay, it's justified. But not for Supergirl, it's not. That's the whole fucking point of the character, is that she's troubled, she's struggling, she's had a hard life and a tough time, and yet she still chooses to be good, even after all of this. Even in the face of just pure evil, she rises above it. But you don't even get that. And that's crazy, because that seems like a direct contradiction from what you hear from her parents and them wanting that for her and to be good. And even in this, they tried to add a little extra dialogue for the mother, talking about, oh, well, you don't always have to be nice, and you don't always have to be kind, but be good. Brother, bullshit. Being good, she could have rose above and not killed this guy, and she would have set Ruthie free and herself. And in the book, it does that so well, where even Supergirl, after all of the stuff that was happening in the book with Krem, because let me tell you, they tried to make Krem bad in this movie, and yeah, he was a bad guy, but in this book, he was an absolute terror. He wasn't even a part of the brigands in the beginning of the book. He was one of the King's agents on the planet where Ruthie lived, and this man was a fucking monster. The things he did for the king and the life that he lived of just brutality and violence. And in this, he laid waste to planets, to entire races. And then Supergirl still confronted him at the very end, and even with her in those moments feeling overwhelmed and after everything that she had been through, and after all that he put her through, and after all that he put all these people through that she was trying to help throughout this entire book, which you don't get in this movie, where she's not as nice and kind and good as she was in this book. And it was just a true disgrace, a true shameful display, and spit in the face of what the character of Supergirl should be. It's crazy to me how people don't call this out. And I know people did. I know there were some people who did. But other people who were like, yeah, this was good, this was fine. No. You deserve better. You deserve to have a true representation of the character of Supergirl. And this wasn't it. They basically shit on the character and was like, hey, this is the Supergirl you deserve. No, it's absolutely not. You deserve so much better because the character is so much better. And it seems like a disgrace. It's an injustice to the character itself, to the true essence of who the character is. She's good, even though she's had a just dog shit time at life, because all of this tragedy, she was there to have that life, only to have it snatched from her, and then through all that, to still overcome all of these adversities and challenges that have been in her life, and you don't get that in the movie. You know, she's this mopey, bitchy teen kind of character, and it's so frustrating because it's like they just took a trait and they just over-exaggerated it to the point where it just overtook what the character was supposed to be, and it's a real shame. It's fucking brutal what they did to Supergirl as a character. And again, This is no shade to Millie Alcock. Like I said, they could have put any character or any actress in this role, and if this is the character that they were given, you were doomed from the start. It doesn't matter who you were. I'm sorry, I hate to say it, but that's just whoever the writers were, whoever the director was, whoever took the lead on the direction of this movie and how it should go, and the plot for it was absolutely terrible. That's why I say you could have done a shot for shot reenactment of the book, and I guarantee you it would have been phenomenal. It would have got nines or better all across the board. If you just wanted to stay faithful to the source material, that'd have been fantastic. But not only did you veer off and only take bits and pieces, and sometimes the wrong bits and pieces from those moments, and you just warped them and turned them into your own vision. I don't know if it was for hubris or ego or for whatever the case may be to make you think that you could do it better. And I don't fault the attempt. I fault the execution, because what you gave us was something where you were like, this is good enough. It's not. It wasn't good enough. In fact, it was so bad that it's rage inducing. And I can't believe it. I did not think I would feel this strongly about this movie. And I feel strongly in the wrong ways. If this would have been like the book, I would have felt strongly about this movie as well. But I would have been raving about it. I would have been singing its praises. I would have been telling people to go buy it. Go, find a collector's edition. Go check it out. Read more about it. All of that. I would have sung it from the fucking rooftops. And instead, it's this. I'm bitching and belly aching about a fantasy character, and I know that's crazy. I know it's crazy. But you watch these movies or you wouldn't be here. And you have to feel something for these characters. Otherwise, you wouldn't take an interest either. And it's a shame because, like I said, the character is so compelling and so good. And the story for this character is so good. This story especially, the Woman of Tomorrow story, I think it deserved better. I know it deserved better. And I just wish we would have got that. And that's another part of my big disappointment, is knowing what we could have had but didn't. It's that longing for something that's just, it's not going to be. It's just not coming. It's not going to happen. So that's a shame. But you know what? I decided I don't want to end this on a bad note. So I added a couple things that I thought were good in this movie. So we're going to end this, I guess, on a bright note. I don't know what you would call it. A saving grace. No, it's not a saving grace. It's, you know what? It's something. It's something. So 2 things that I liked about this movie. There were 2 instances. One happened to be, oddly enough, any time that Superman was on camera. It was fun. It was good. It was lighthearted. It was jovial. Especially the scene where Kara first comes to Earth and he finds her and the capsule's opening and he's talking to her and he realizes she just speaks Kryptonian and he doesn't. He didn't grow up like that, so they can't communicate. So then he starts talking louder and he immediately catches himself. He's like, why am I talking louder? It was funny. It was a fun, cute, neat little thing that made it bright. And there was levity, and it was nice, and I chuckled, and I thought, wow, there's something there. And then stuff like this happens, and I'm like, it was a mirage. It was fake. It was all bullshit. But yeah, so there was that, and I was like, you know what? The time with her and Clark on camera, it was great. It was great, and I enjoyed that. Then there was a scene where she was in that big fight with Krem and the Brigands towards the end. She goes underwater in part of the fight scene, and she uses her heat vision, her laser vision, to blast a hole in, I guess, like the tank, and it shoots straight up, and there's this big red beam, and out of it she flies from the water up into the sky, and that scene is just visually stunning. It feels epic. It looks cool. You can't help but get a little bit psyched and pumped, and you're like, oh, this is fucking cool. And that's all you get, brother. That's it. I hate to tell you, but those are some of the high points. But yeah, I'll do just a couple quick comparisons from the book to the movie, and then we got to end this because I'm I'm venting a little bit too much on this one, and I need to wrap it up. I don't want to take too much of your time. I know I've been venting for a while, but this one really fucking pissed me off. So anyway, in this book, going back to talking about colorful things and things that I think would have looked good on screen, that would have brought that color, that vibrancy, that life to the movie. She's on a space transport, similar to the movie, but in this space transport, the transport runs across a space dragon, a literal space dragon, and it is beautiful. It is this big, majestic, colorful dragon that happens to be impeding their path, and the only way that they can get past it is if Supergirl happens to fight it and clear the way for them. And to do that, she takes this drug, I guess. She needs a red, so she takes a red pill, and she just turns in to this bright, beautiful red and orange and yellow phoenix, and the energy engulfs her, and she fights this dragon, and it is stunning. It is beautiful, breathtaking, and to see it there in all of its glory on the pages, and just, it's so appealing, and it's just amazing, and I can't help but wonder and think what that would have looked like brought to life in a live action movie where you could have had, that motion and that animation and that action and that vibrancy, and how absolutely gorgeous it would have been. A cinematic masterpiece, a feast for the eyes. You don't get that. And that's neither here nor there, I guess, but it's just something that I thought was like, that in the book was one of the scenes where it was like, man, had that been in the movie, that'd have been super sweet, man. That'd have been so cool. If it had been in this particular movie, it's the highlight of the movie. It's the highest point, and then you get the rest. But yeah, and then there was like I said, the dynamic where they talk about her origin story in this book. Just, you know what? If you took liberties with the rest of the book, please reevaluate why you decided to take liberties with one of the most heartfelt, gut-wrenching, just absolutely tragic issues in this book that was so good. And you changed it, you warped it, you made it this weird mutation and watered down version of what it was, and you gave us this slop. You gave us this gruel at the end. You took this beautiful masterpiece from this book, and you were just like, we'll just nitpick some things from it. Why, brother? What? I'm starting to think they had a vendetta against the fucking book. I just don't get it, man. I'm truly disappointed. I think it's because of how much I actually loved the book that it also plays a huge factor into how much I fucking hated this movie. Man. I'm gonna hop off here because I feel like I've taken up way too much of your time already, but I had to get this out. Oh boy, did I have to get this out. This was like fucking poison. I just had to vent it. I just had to get it out. And I appreciate you. If you managed to stay this whole time, please leave a like, a comment. Say something in the comments. I'll tell you what. Say Space Dragon in the comments so I know that you made it this far. And you're one of the real ones. If you lasted this whole time of me venting and just yapping your ear off, I apologize. But I had to get it out there. And I hope you enjoyed it. And if at all you found it a little bit entertaining, I'm glad. I'm glad that you found it entertaining if you did. And if you did find it entertaining, if you could do me a huge favor and, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and share this video if you want, if you feel up to it. You don't have to do any of those things, but I appreciate it if you do. Thank you for those who do. I really do appreciate it, and it would help the channel out a lot, and I want to continue to grow the channel and everything. So, yeah, that's it. I gotta stop because I think I'm fucking killing myself. So I appreciate you stopping by and checking this out. I'll catch you guys on the next one with whatever else we're talking about next. Leave me some comments below. Tell me if there's any suggestions for me. But yeah, peace.